New survey finds 2 in 3 Indians oppose interfaith marriages. So I'll get into it in a second. A recent survey by the Pew Research group shows that 2 in 3 Indians express strong opinions on interfaith marriages and would actively like to stop them. The survey result indicates that most Indians want to believe that India is tolerant of other religions while they oppose interfaith relationships. The survey involves 30,000 interviews with residents from most major faiths in 17 languages across 26 states of India. Around 67% of Hindus, 80% of Muslims, 59% of Sikhs, and 66% of Jains responded that women from their community marrying out of the faith must be stopped. The survey also shows that nearly 99% of Hindus, 98% of Muslims, 95% of Christians, and 97% of Buddhists share the same religion with their spouse. So this research is coming out of, or this data point is coming out of a big research survey that was just conducted by the very highly authoritative and credible Pew Research group. And we're actually going to be covering a lot of other research that was uncovered from this survey in another story, because it's a huge survey of Indian opinions. I think one of the largest of its kind, especially on these types of questions. And there's a lot of different bits to be learned from everything that was gathered in this survey. And one of the points that is very interesting from all this recent research is that many Indians hold the belief that India is a very religiously tolerant country, while also holding the belief that women from their community shouldn't marry outside of their faith. Like, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we respect other religions, but we want to remain segregated amongst ourselves. It's a very interesting kind of dual belief about what Indian society is like. Rivka?
Yeah, I think that kind of thing is often very common, is that as long as it's an abstract concept of tolerance and acceptance, or it's someone else doing, then it's good. We like it. We think we're, but when it affects you personally, then no, it's a different thing. So, and especially because of the whole issue of shame and honor culture in terms of controlling women, which then, reflects on the honor of the whole community or the religion or the parents. Yeah, everything has to stay within the boundaries of traditional for those. And I think it's really interesting that it's across the board. So it's not just one group is very anti-interfaith marriage. Every group is anti-interfaith marriage.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So Katie had a few good points, saying this is a huge research survey, which honestly deserves its own stream, in my opinion. Yes, it's really fascinating. And I think a lot more news stories are going to come out about this as more people dig into the full report. Blank Name is saying, their view of tolerance is that you practice your religion, me, mine, and keep your men away from my women. And then also pointing out that they, in Indian society, there's kind of a different definition of secularism that doesn't necessarily mean neutrality. And, there was another comment. I lost it. Oh, Katie was saying, by the way, this research also finds out several other points, like a majority of Indians say that being Hindu is important to be truly Indian. So that's very interesting as well. Obviously, that is an opinion that is probably, I would reckon, is most popular among BJP supporters, or very popular amongst that group. Armin?
All right, so I have 3 points. First of all, if you break it down by age, do we see this insanity lowering in younger generations? Like, is there hope for future of the future of India, right? So is there?
I wasn't able to dig into the full report myself, but I was watching an hour-long stream by Indian independent journalist Faye D'Souza. Highly recommend you guys go check it out. But her and her panelists were talking about how for this kind of data point, there wasn't a lot of other information released at the time of more of the demographic information about the respondents to this question. So, because they were asking, like, is there a difference in opinion between men and women on these issues? And that wasn't available to them at the time. So I don't think that a more specific breakdown has been given yet.
Actually, Katie is saying the age breakdown is in the later news segment. Do we have any later news
yes,
segment?
Yes, we do. It's kind of a different aspect of the survey.
Okay, great. So we're going to figure that out later. Second of all, I don't think the survey asked this. I'm guessing not. But I would be interested to see if, I think people, by the way, some people are saying it's mostly Muslims that are like this. No, this is like 2/3 of India, which is mostly Hindu, right? So this is mostly, just given that the majority of Indians are Hindu, like maybe you could see maybe in the Muslim communities, it's a higher percentage, but overall, on a total number wise, it's mostly Hindus, right? Depends on, you could frame this in any way you like. You could, like, if you want to say it's mostly Hindus, because obviously most of India is Hindu, but then you could say within it, if you adjust it per capita, then Muslims are more like this, right? So there's that. Okay, so what I'm interested in, if the survey, it would be interesting if the survey asks us, is I think people are more, when people are opposing interfaith marriage, they're talking about losing women, not losing men, right? So, and I think on all sides, it would be, I would predict that if you're Hindu and a Hindu man is marrying a Muslim woman, you're not offended. But if a Hindu woman is marrying a Muslim man, they're like, they're coming after our woman, they're stealing from us, love jihad or whatever, right? And same thing with the Muslim community. I think if a Muslim man marries a Hindu woman, they not only they don't have an issue with that, they celebrate that. They're like, yes, bring him to the fold, like grow the ummah or whatever, right? But if a Muslim woman marries a Hindu man, they're like, they're stealing our woman. They're spreading, like, it's like the property. Like, this is what I think, like, interfaith marriage for these people, for a lot of these people, is basically property theft. And that by property, I mean woman. All right, go on, Sus. You want to say something?
I think there is a lot of this attitude. Like, I think it reflects a very patriarchal attitude. It was interesting when I was watching Faye D'Souza and her panelists of discussing this issue. They were talking about how there can be many different Indias. So what's interesting about this survey is that a large percentage of the respondents to the survey, what is called were from the areas known as the Hindi belt, which is kind of a more northern section of India, including Uttar Pradesh. It's basically the states where Hindi is spoken most frequently, obviously. And those are also the most populous states of India and some of the most conservative. So a lot of surveys about India can be skewed because so much of the population and so many respondents are going to be from the Hindi belt. So sometimes it's not entirely reflective of what all of India is like, where like there were what we would say less conservative views kind of reflected in the southern states of India. Obviously, there's still a lot of this conflict that still occurs there, but relatively it's less conservative. There was something else I was going to say, but it slipped my mind. Sorry.
I want to highlight what we're actually, like, I don't know. I think like we're missing how evil this is by calling it opposing interfaith marriage. Okay. I just wanted people to understand. First, let's look at this number wise, okay? We're talking a country that is 1.3 billion people, right? If I'm correct. 2/3 of that's like, more than 800 million people, right? There's more than 800 million people. What is their opinion? Their opinion is that two people in love that want to be together, their religion not being the same is irrelevant here. That they are opposing people who love each other and want to be with each other. Their religion is grounds for them to oppose it. These people are anti-love. Like, this is, guys, if this doesn't show you the harm of religion, I don't know what does. People are taking position against love. like if you guys, religion is evil, like this, and we're talking about 850 million people that think this way. And don't tell me this has nothing to do with religion. It doesn't get more about religion. It says interfaith. It's in the opposed interfaith. Its faith is in the viewpoint. Like, this is religion. Rivka.
So, yeah, I think your point is really valid because it very much is about religion. But I think it's more than opposing love. It's even more about the potential kids. That's what most people are worried about when it comes to that. And I've noticed that a lot of people also all over who may not be that religious of a person somehow feel like it's so important that once you have kids, you have to pass this on, that, it has to keep going. And so it's very much specific to marriage because of the potential of children. And they don't want the children, not just against the love, but they also don't want the children to be raised with another way of being or another family or another set of ideas.
Yeah, just to be clear, I know their reasoning is not that. So I want to clarify my point here, okay? Obviously, they're not going to be like, we hate love, right? They're going to have whatever religious mumbo jumbo reasoning that they have, like whether it's children, whether it's like they're stealing our woman or whatever. But effectively, they are, whatever those reasoning, Rivka has a good point, whatever those reasoning are, those reasonings to them takes priority. Those religious reasonings, religion takes priority over the fact that two people love each other and they want to be with each other, right? So Rivka, what you're saying is correct. I just wanted to make sure that this is not a contradiction. Sus?
I remember
Rivka is muted. Yeah, go ahead.
I remembered the points that I wanted to make. So you were talking about the differences in attitudes if it was man marrying outside of the religion versus a woman marrying outside of the religion. I can't remember off the top of my head what the differences were on that question. I do know that they asked separately how acceptable it would be if a man married outside of the caste, and separately how acceptable would it be if a woman married outside of his or her caste. And both were mentioned. About 60% to respondents said that it wasn't okay for men or women to marry outside of their caste, but the percentage was higher for women, it being less acceptable for a woman to marry outside of the caste. So I'm assuming they would be a very similar answer for religion. But the bottom line is that the majority of respondents believed that it was unacceptable. But there was another point I wanted to make. When I was watching this panel talking about their experience and if they were surprised by these results, basically Faye D'Souza was the only one who expressed surprise at this. Everyone else was like, yeah, I follow the news, like this makes sense. But it was also interesting because they were saying that, like I said earlier, that There really are many different Indias. So a lot of them were more metropolitan people, and they were talking about how in urban metropolitan centers, there is less of these attitudes. They're like, in my family, we're a family of love jihadis, as they would say, because it's so common in their family or in their community, their friend group, to marry outside of any given social group. Like one panelist was saying, actually, now that I think about it, I can't think of a friend who has married someone who is exactly within their community on everything, or, or maybe they're completely separate on all these communal identities. So it can vary a lot, but overall, throughout these different states, which may be a little bit more representative in the Hindi or cow belt, there are these very conservative attitudes that take the majority.
I want to call upon the Indians who are part of that 1 in 3 Indians, okay? On the Muslim and the Hindu and the atheist, or whatever Indian you are in that 1 in 3, go and find somebody outside of whatever you are, okay? Improve on your dating skills. Try to figure out how to appeal to everybody else. Like, go figure out, if you're a Hindu, try to figure out what Muslim women want, right? If you're a Hindu man. If you're a Muslim, or no, actually, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just go. There are more hey, enrich your life with people with different experience, okay? It's boring if you marry somebody that comes from your same culture and background. It would be interesting. It would be a world of new ideas and adventure. Go and find people that are outside of your, I don't know, caste, outside of your religion. You will have a lot broader view of humanity. You know what? This is mostly a joke, because just fall in love with whoever you fall in love with, right? But open the door to the possibilities of maybe the person that would be best suited for you is not in your caste or in your religion or whatever, right? It's possible, okay? So fight this nonsense and go out and make love. Anyways, yeah. Suze.
I think it was very interesting to hear from the panel that I was watching, because one woman who was a bit older, she was talking about, for her generation, seeing broader representation across social groups in Indian media and also just in her community was much more common. And she's saying nowadays, like, you don't see representation, of like Muslim protagonists on TV very often, or you don't see interfaith, intercaste relationships in popular media. And she was saying, there's the stereotype for love jihad of Muslim men being these like very seductive characters, like they have something about them that is just like a dolly. They just cast a spell on these women. And she was saying, that's actually not a new idea. That was around when I was younger, but it's gained such popularity recently. It's accelerated. It's on steroids now, this demonization of the Muslim man. Like, so
that seems like a compliment. Like, these people are so good at picking women. Hey,
I know, right?
these Muslims, they're so attractive. The Hindu women are just like falling over for them. Is this like a major confidence boost to like Muslim men? Like, I don't understand. Like, maybe like here's what I suggest. This should bring peace in India between Hindu men and Muslim men, right? Get all the Muslim men to put classes and for Hindu men on what they're doing wrong, right? So instead of attack the Hindu men in India, instead of attacking Muslim men, go ask them, like, what's your secret? How are you attracting all these Hindu women? Like, show us the way. Like, and then maybe pay them. Then this will bring peace and unity between Muslims and Hindu. Have seminars and classes, and you have one Muslim man, like, when you meet a Hindu woman, right? Don't ask for bobs and vagines on the first date, okay? Maybe bobs and vagines maybe come on the third or fourth date. Like, that's not how you do it, okay? Like, there will be, this should be a thing. I think this will solve everything in India. Go on.
Well, this is also just a fun fact. I thought it was really cool that Pew Forum on their website. You can find this report. They titled it "Religion in India: Tolerance and Segregation," to kind of contrast these two attitudes of like, India is an extremely religiously diverse country, but there is this segregation. So we do have this like tolerance of there being a multiplicity. At the same time, these multiplicities are very segregated, which I think is a very interesting contention. But what I wanted to say was, I thought this was really cool for Pew to do. They released this report in 5 different Indian languages. So people can read this report in their own language. They don't have to read it in Hindi. They don't have to read it in English. They have a wide variety of options for people in India to read this research. So we're going to talk about more findings from this report later in the news. And I want to read this report in full myself. It's quite hefty. It's over 200 pages long. But
Wait,
this is very important information. And
I have a very interesting question. I mean, all my questions are interesting.
Oh, yes.
What's the support for gay marriage? What's the percentage of support for gay marriage in India?
I don't know if that was covered in this report.
Because I wonder if there are people in India that say, like, I support gay marriage. Just make sure it's in the same caste and religion. like they went on progressive on one side, but on the other, like the whole interfaith one, they're still the same.
That reminds me. So also, from what I was watching, they were talking about gay marriage and how, the panelists are saying this is something I believe in, this is something we should push for. But actually, when tackling the issue of gay marriage, Indian society needs to look within itself and say that in a way, that's kind of an ideal that we should be working towards, because it speaks more towards a love marriage. And they were talking about the prevalence of arranged marriage as playing into these statistics, meaning like a lot of the reason why we see such across all these different religious groups, such stringent segregation in interfaith marriage, is that people are having arranged marriages, and arranged marriages are going to be within their own communities. That's just kind of how it works. And so that being such a common cultural institution within Indian society is a large factor in statistics like these. This is where we see the fruit of it. And that love marriage should be more popularized and celebrated. But speaking of celebrating love marriage, interfaith marriage, intercaste marriage in India, I want to give you guys a plug for something really awesome and positive. So there is this Instagram called, I think it's India Love Project. And it's an Instagram that is dedicated to celebrating posts of all these very diverse marriages in India. And I would like to credit, yes, it's called India Love Project. And I would like to credit our Indian lawyer, Bulbul, we call her, for telling me about this. But it's this beautiful Instagram where each post profiles a couple, and it talks about how okay, just a second. They have different religious or cultural identities, and how they came to fall in love. And yeah, so at India Love Project, and it's called Love and Marriage Outside the Shackles of Faith, Caste, Ethnicity, and Gender.
Wow.
It's so awesome. Sometimes I read some of these stories and they make me tear up because they're just so cute. But it's people talking about how, they have gay couples too. People finding love and them being challenged by how they were challenged by their community, maybe for their nationality, maybe for their faith, maybe for their caste, but how they shared their stories of how they got their community to accept them. They shared their stories of managing cultural differences in relationships, in marriages, how they stayed together, how you can be happy in an intercaste, interfaith marriage. It's like one of the most positive things on Instagram. And it really promotes, I think, one of the most beautiful sides of India. And I think it was partially started to combat this narrative that this isn't something that's okay. And it's become a huge community for people who have non-normative, quote unquote, marriages to talk and share experiences with each other and support each other through the difficulties that they may face. So if you guys...
There's even one with like between Indian and a European looking woman.
Oh yeah, this woman's from Germany or Belgium.
So look, they're even like, yeah, this is also taboo, I think, in India.
Yeah, across nationalities.
That's great. So people are saying, where is this again? Like, how can
It's
they
on
find it?
Instagram. It is at India Love Project.
Yeah, guys, go follow them, go support this. This is such a great project. How many followers do they have right now?
They have almost 57,000.
Yeah, this needs to be a lot bigger.
I really love it because they also have like intergenerational stories. So they share the stories of their parents' interfaith marriage, or they share the stories of their grandparents' intercaste marriage and how that informed the generations that followed, and how, you know, India isn't in many ways, it isn't as rigid as these current social norms or attitudes may lead you to believe. Like there is, you know, a history of families having, you know, being full of love jihadis, and everyone has different food that they bring to events, and, you know, it's okay. Like this actually is, you know, a part of India. It's a beautiful part of India.
Yeah, actually, very good point, because a lot of people who are like, love jihad, Muslim men are coming for our women. A lot of what you're seeing, a lot of the beautiful images that you're seeing here, a lot of people in India will describe this as love jihad, right? So when they're trying to scare you about love jihad, and they have like examples mostly from Pakistan, from legitimate like horrible crimes that some people have committed, they use those victims as a way to scare you, not about similar acts. They try to scare you about this is what they're afraid of, right? This, you know, so imagine being against this. Imagine being against, like, again, look in the mirror if you're against stuff like this, and we're like, are we the baddies, right? If you are part of the community that wants to go and like the mob that shows up at weddings like this, and they try to you know, break it apart, or like if you go and find, you know, Hindu women that married Muslim men and you want to harass them, and if this is what you're against, then you seriously have to like reevaluate like what you're about and who you are. Like you are on the wrong side of history, and you would be shamed by future generations of your own country. Anyways,
my favorite is when they share pictures of their grandparents, and then like you see them, you know, they share like their marriage photos and then a picture of them nowadays, and they're just like, they've been together for like 57 years, you know, like it's just so cute. This is, whenever I see a post from India Love Project on my Instagram feed, it just like makes my day so much better.
This was a great share, Sue. Thank you for sharing this. This was like so, like this news was so bad. We needed something like this.
Yeah, I mean, it really like challenges the narrative both inside of and outside of India. This is a very what's the word I'm looking for? Like
it's wholesome and good and nice.
It is all of those things, definitely.
All right. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes.
Hold on. Oh, wait. Let's read one more thing.
Vlad is saying, my grand uncle was just charged from the Indian Navy because he married an Italian woman.
Oh, wow.
What?
Weird.
Hey, guys. If you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, you know, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe. Link in the description below.